Snapped podcast. My name is Tyler Kluver, and I'm a former Division I athlete turned entrepreneur. I run my own fitness and nutrition coaching business, as well as a sports media brand that produces podcasts, sells merchandise, and creates exclusive paid content. The fun part is I don't really know what I'm doing as a business owner. I'm just figuring it out day by day. This show, Snapped, acts as an audio journal for my thoughts and ideas on fitness, health, business, mindset, and whatever else I find important on the pursuit to personal happiness and a balanced life. I hope you can take something from the show that makes your life a little bit better. And regardless, I'm just happy you're here. Let's have a day. Let's go. Welcome to the Snap Podcast, back again for another week. Quick episode today, basically because I didn't necessarily have a topic I was super enthralled to talk about. There's a lot of other things going on. I'm recording 2 more podcasts today. Sometimes this podcaster stuff is like, what am I doing? Why am I hitting record and just talking into a microphone so much? It seems like a lot, too much maybe. But good stuff, all good stuff. And we're also coming up on a time where you guys are going, and I'm going to try to be a little bit more dialed in, quick, efficient on this year's, because I understand that not everybody cares about it. But again, this is my project, my sort of audio vlog. So I'm going to talk about it because it's really the only place I get to process it. We are, or should I say, the CrossFit Open is upon us once again. And I believe that this will be year 3 of me covering those workouts. Me doing those workouts, specifically what the workout is, my expectations. We talked about the half marathon last week that I'm now going to be training for. That is sort of the first 8 weeks of that training cycle are also going to be, I'm still doing CrossFit. I'm still training to be fit for the CrossFit Open in that competitive season. So what that'll look like is next week. No. Gosh, 2 weeks? 2 weeks from now, we'll be previewing the first. No, I'm all screwed up. In the next couple weeks, we'll roll into that series. Either next week or the week after that, we're going to preview the Open, what my expectations are, what my goals are. I've sort of mentioned how I've taken a step back competitively from that, at least for this year, just because of injuries. But what we'll be looking at there is how close I can get to my rankings from last year. The goal for doing the Open still is to keep myself on the worldwide rankings leaderboard, because I like to see that. I like to have that as like a little, not that I ever pull it out, but like, yeah, I'm ranked top 600 in the world in CrossFit. It's a personal, like, selfish thing. We'll also be recapping a rowing progression. I don't know if I've mentioned that on this channel yet, a rowing progression that I've been doing. I'm currently in the middle of week 6 of this rowing progression. It's 3 times a week. It's been pretty intense. It's very simple, but effective, as most of the best fitness things are. And we'll go over that. There's not a lot to it, so I can't imagine it'll be a super long episode, but I want to talk about what that's done for me and just a specified sort of focus program in general, what that can do for somebody, even as deep into their fitness career / journey as me. There's a lot of things that have been eye-opening just from going through this program, as far as what I've observed and noticed of myself, and how that's helped me prepare for the Open in light of the injuries I've had and, just the benefit of rowing in general. So that'll be fun to go over. So today is specifically about consistency. Just want to talk about that for 5, 6, 7 minutes here. And I've probably hit this in other ways in the past. I'll probably hit it more in the future. But my life right now is I wouldn't say things are all happening, but things are lining up where you're starting to see how certain pursuits, certain work that I've done in the past, certain experiences or connections that I've made in the past are starting to line up more and more for me. And I don't know if that's just a product of time. Obviously, that's a factor. I'll be 30 this year. So, ideally, by the time you're 30, you start to know some people, you start to have some experiences that are relevant and start to level you up as a professional. But we're starting to see that, and it's really cool. And maybe that's something that's expected from someone who gets into a really structured and safe career. You get a job as at a finance company or some business, or you're in marketing and you start at a lower entry level position, and you can kind of project and see, if you want, by looking at your coworkers or those within the hierarchy of your own company, like, what could my career look like if I extrapolated out to 5, 10, 20, 30 years? Oh, I'll move up from, the junior marketing department to, um, head of a marketing team, then maybe head of the marketing department as a whole, and then I can become, a senior vice president. Like, I can move up these roles in the company, and if I want, someday I could be like top of the top if I run this thing 40 years deep. That isn't as black and white or as determined or as likely, even, in a way, when you do your own thing. There's no titles that I'm going to ascend to by working for myself, right? I was the owner of the company immediately, which is great. It's cool. I have any title I want, but that doesn't come with anything like it does at other jobs: a raise, more notoriety, different responsibilities. I decide all of those regardless of the title that I give myself. And so, to be in a self-sustaining career, a self-employed career, a position where I wake up every day and I decide if I work at all. There have been days over the last 7 years where I have, something comes up, or I just feel like crap, or I have other things going on. I have errands to run, where, cool, that day I get to decide that I don't have to do a single ounce of work. That's a great perk. It also means that if no work gets done, it's hard to make a living. It's hard to make an income. So you have to find the balance between those things. Uh, and there's nobody that's my boss, or nobody that's overseeing the work that I do. There's nobody that's giving me instructions, or at the end of the year giving me a yearly review, and then, uh, you know, analyzing my production to the company and deciding whether or not I deserve a raise or not, or I deserve a promotion or not. None of that comes. The promotions and the raises and all of that are sort of fluid and not unique, right? So, to see clear advances in the businesses that I run, both the media business with the walk-ons and the podcasting and the merchandise and all that, and the fitness side of things, is really, really encouraging and cool. And that's what's happening right now in my life. And I'll just give you a few instances of that. Um, and again, I want to relate this all back to the consistency. If there's one thing that I am good at, and I hope that my friends and my family and my wife would tell you this, is I am extremely disciplined and consistent. If there's one thing in life, that's it. Or maybe two things: discipline and consistency. And I am a believer, not just because you hear it from everybody, but again, because I've seen it work in multiple facets of my life. I'm a believer that that will yield you results at some point. And it may not be clear when that is. It may not be clear what those results will be. They might not be exactly what you're hoping for, what the original goal of the effort was, but you will get results. Stuff will start to happen if you stay with your head down, working hard, consistent, and disciplined. That's true in fitness and in health. And if you're trying to get, if you're trying to It could be as simple as this half marathon that I'm going to run, right? I'm going to spend 14 weeks. In fact, I've already been spending these first 2 to 3 weeks doing little 2 to 3 mile runs in the mornings. Eventually, I'll get into the legitimate 14-week prep where there's interval runs and long runs and pace runs. There's a plan, and I stay consistent to that plan. And I trust that my body, my legs, my lungs, they will reap the benefits, the reward of putting in that consistent work over 14 weeks so that on race day, I have the ability to go and attain a product, a result. It could be that simple. And I'm excited to see that specific track play out. On a deeper level, some other things that have been happening. I've had this Washed Up Walk-Ons media company. We started it in 2018. So this will, in September, it'll be year 6 of having this. And you start this off and you realize it's a legitimate thing within the first 6 months or year. And you're like, holy crap, we have all these ideas. Let's go after this. And you don't realize that it might take 6 years for some of this stuff to play out, which then opens your mind to, oh, what ideas or aspirations for this thing do we have that might take 10 or 15 years to play out, right? Stuff like, um, we were asked early on to be the celebrity guests slash host of a golf tournament, something simple, a charity golf tournament. And we've had the idea forever that we could put on our own golf tournament, right? But that takes a lot of work. It takes volunteers, people to plan, a lot of logistical stuff to be figured out months in advance. And we've probably had this idea for 3 to 4 years now, and we just haven't had the bandwidth to do it as a company and brand. And now all of the sudden this May, we will be doing a golf tournament, and it's going to be huge. It's going to be massive. It's going to bring in dozens, tens of thousands of dollars for the children's hospital, which is our main cause on the podcast. And it's going to be done right. But it took 6 years for that to happen, to put us in a position where we align with the right people and we can make it work. Uh, the YouTube channel, not just the Walk-Ons YouTube channel, but the channel for this podcast, the Snap podcast, both have seen their biggest months ever. And I've been doing this Snap podcast for, I believe this will be year 4. I think this is year 4 of this podcast because I started it right when the pandemic started. And the Walk On YouTube channel has basically just been us uploading the long form hour plus long episodes of our podcast. And we've dabbled. Last summer we got to go down to Titan U with George Kittle and make a video of his barn gym and his, tour his facility. And even that in a microcosm is sort of an example of this. We put that up, video got good views, hundreds of views. It got us up to like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 views. And now Kittle makes this run to the Super Bowl on the Niners this past week and this season, and all of a sudden the Kittle video is up to like 50,000 views. 50,000 views just because it caught the algorithm on YouTube. It's like 15 or 20% of our total views of our channel combined. We've seen growth to nearing 3,500 subscribers on YouTube, which we were stuck at, 1,000, 1,500 for several years, and that's rocketed up. All of that comes with more YouTube revenue. I don't think we'll stay on this pace because we're kind of riding a high, a bump right now, one of the peaks. But if we were to continue at this rate, we would do over, and this isn't crazy money, but it's money. We'd do over $1,000 from YouTube in a year. And we're just uploading our videos and just letting them go. And a lot of them aren't even fully monetized because we're cussing so much. On the other side, the Snap podcast, the video last week, can I hold a 140 pace on the half marathon? I'm prepping to run a half marathon. Most views I've ever gotten from in the first week of a video going up for this channel. There's 34 subscribers. It has 60 some views on YouTube, double the views of my subscribers because I've gotten better at making thumbnails and making titles. I'd like to think that the actual podcast is better quality, me talking, less ums and pauses and more direct thoughts and paths to conclusion of what I'm talking about, topics that I'm trying to get across. So the YouTubes are doing well. The golf tournament. Um, Recently, our merchandise for the Washed Up Walk-Ons finally got into stores. Like we're in retail. We have clothing that is in major retail. Shields. That's wild. Another idea that we've had for 2 or 3 years, and it finally happened. Like, our brand has been around a long enough that it's been consistent enough. We've put in the work, and lo and behold, we've built a reputation that's good enough for a store to take at least some of our clothing. Um, Within that, we've also put in work on trying to get certain designs done and approved, and we got a design approved that we've wanted to do for 4 years. All of these things that just have taken so much time, things that we put on the back burner and maybe thought, "Oh, it might not ever happen," or "It's gonna take a lot for us to get this done." Something is going to have to change, and the only thing that has changed with most of this is we've just had to wait. We've had to be patient. Time has changed. Time has gone on, and eventually the puzzle pieces have fallen into place. Um, it's super relatable to fitness, and this episode's going a little bit longer, but I'm about to wrap it up. Super relatable to fitness. You know, you start out and that first week or first month, you're like, wow, my body really hurts and it doesn't feel or look like I've gotten a whole lot more fit and healthy. Like, I don't know what's going on. This is hard for me to believe. And then 2 months or 3 months in, you start to see a little bit of change and you start to feel a little bit different in the gym when you're moving certain weights or you're trying to run or do some cardio. Then 6 months to a year in, you're like, wow, I'm like on this journey. I've made a lot of goals. You can definitely see the progress at that point. And then you get to the part where you're 5 or 10 years in. Or for someone like me within the fitness space, I'm 15 years in. And at that point, you're not you don't start to see as much physical change because you've squeezed a lot of the juice out of that lemon or orange, whatever the analogy is you want it to be. But knowledge wise and specificity and your ability to manipulate different parts of your fitness becomes so much easier. You know so much more. You can be very, very intentional and directive with your efforts and energy. And it just takes time. So, a lot of cool things happening with the businesses, with my personal stuff. And it gives me hope, not hope, but it gives me confirmation and a little fire, a little motivation to just keep putting in the work. Maybe the biggest example of all this is episode 150 of the Snap podcast. And we are actually approaching 50,000 total downloads, listens on this show, which is, I think, pretty crazy because I haven't promoted it a whole lot. It's just a fun little thing I do. But there's really on the surface, like if you were to look at it, someone was to come in and analyze like the work and effort that I put in each week on stuff that I do, they'd be like, why are you recording this 20 to 30-minute podcast, sometimes longer, every single week? You're putting it up on YouTube and you're getting 7 views, 2 views, no views. Like nobody's watching. There's only a couple dozen people listening in the beginning. And even now, the last few weeks, even there's only been like 100 to 200 people listening to this thing. And it's because I believe that the stuff I talk about, I believe at base level, even if nobody listened or watched, that me presenting in a somewhat polished format helps me to better communicate with my clients. So at base level, I'm getting something better communication, better public speaking. It's content creation, it's a creative outlet for me. So that's fun. And that doesn't depend on how many people view or listen to it. But then, even just a few dozen or 100 people that do listen, I think they get something out of it. And I know that because I've heard the feedback. And I've also gotten several personal training, one-on-one and remote clients out of that, which financially becomes a very viable reason factor to continue to do this podcast. You got to put in the work and you have to be consistent and you just have to plug away and grind and grind and grind. It's true. If you want something to work, if you want something to turn out, it's really just about staying in the game, time in the game, and you'll eventually get somewhere. So happy about that. Next few episodes of this podcast, like I said, are going to be breaking down the rowing program that I did. I'm crazy fit on the rower right now. I feel like an absolute beast. Excited to share that with you guys. We'll preview the Open and how my expectations and goals for this year may have changed. We'll talk about where do I think I can place in the world this year, and then obviously once that Open starts, we'll actually recap each workout, give you exactly the details. Hey, here it was a 15-minute AMRAP. Here were the movements. Here's what I thought I could get to. Here's what I actually got. All those fun things. So Open season is upon us. We'll continue to talk more about that and my half marathon training and all the good stuff. Hope you got something out of this. Be consistent in whatever your pursuit is. And remember, your excuses are not valid. Go have a day. Let's go.